you all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I found it. You tried to hide it, but I found it. All right, welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting this July 18, 2023. It's 9 a.m. We'll start off with, do we have any changes to the tentative agenda?
I have none.
Okay, meet with department heads and elected officials. Krista Poggemiller, Health Department.
Good morning. We continue to keep busy. We are starting our clinics at the different schools to help with immunizations, as well as next week starts the county fair. And so Public Health will be providing the first aid table for that.
Would you please turn your phone down, Krista?
I can take care of.
Wow, that was loud. It almost sounded like it came from my desk. Thank you. All right. Yvonne, safety.
Good morning. Keeping busy, but really nothing new to report.
And let's do Ken Hyman, Mental Health Agency of Southeast Iowa.
Yeah, we have Elevate Mobile Crisis in 8 counties starting in August, so we're excited about that. Optime crisis assessments can now happen in our hospital, so that was good news. New governing board members were chosen this last week in the meeting, and I think Tom's gonna be one of those 6 Board of Supervisor members on the governing board, so that's great. We got a new logo that was chosen. I might just show you that. So I don't know, I only have one here, but Mental Health Agency of Southeast Iowa now has a logo, and I guess there's the white background or there's the blue background. So that's what, you're gonna start seeing that around. We'll have a new website eventually and everything too. And I noticed on the DHS website, they have our new 13 county region all highlighted here on the southeast side. So glad they've got that updated for the July 1 change. So that's about all I have for now.
How many counties?
13. There's the new map.
Does that mean we're gonna get a new pen?
There's the
He's trying to blow you off. Excuse me, but Jim had a quick question.
pen?
Oh yeah, we don't have money for bling yet, but hopefully eventually we will.
All right. Don't hold your breath for the bling, Jimmy. Lisa Schaefer, County Attorney.
Good morning. Staying busy as usual. It is summer after all. We're co-sponsoring National Night Out again with the Burlington Police Department on August 1st. It's always the first Tuesday in August of every year. This is our 3rd go-round, so it should be a good time. We'll be getting a proclamation for the board to read on that day. But other than that, just getting ready for another round of jury trials. It's been pretty busy this summer.
Yeah. Alrighty. Natalie Steffner, Recorder's Office.
Good morning, just business as usual, nothing new to report.
Janelle Nellie Lundquist, Treasurer's Office.
Good morning. We're just working on the end of year process and amping up for that new tax file. Keeping busy.
Colin Gerst, IT.
Nothing new to report.
I'm sorry, IT, my bad. Jared Lassiter, Land Use.
Morning. We have the agenda item with the wind ordinance today. Probably have a minor subdivision on the agenda next week. That was one that had to go through the city first. I had some follow-up on that to clarify a few things, but apart from that, just business as usual.
Okay, Kevin Glendenning, Sheriff.
Hi, good morning. A lot going on at the sheriff's office and the jail. Everybody's keeping on top of things, I think, and no really major news for the board though. Our population's at 87 today, and we have a bus trip of 7 going to Oakdale this morning.
I was gonna say, we were really busy yesterday, so I know we're getting ready
Bus
to
trip.
go.
Yes, yes.
Like a
So
field trip.
6 of those were already on the list, and it was a really busy court day. So we'll get more on the schedule to go up to the state prison, and hopefully we'll see that number come down even more. Went out to the residential facility yesterday, and 2 remaining on that list. So right now, 2 on our wait list until everything gets updated this morning. So we're doing pretty good. We should be down to 80 here in about a half an hour. So.
All right, what a difference a half an hour makes already. Cheryl Mack, Auditor's Office and Finance.
Well, we've been working with Tyler Technologies, trying to get we're trying to improve our payroll system that Tyler has. So that's been successful so far. We have 3 more days left with them dialing into our system and looking at our setup to try to figure out better ways to do things, more efficient ways to do things. So that's been taking some extra time off of us, and we're working on the new, working on the file to get it out, down to the treasurer so they can send out tax bills again.
All right.
That's about it.
Take your time on that one.
Okay. You bet.
Brian Carter, County Engineer.
Good morning. Things are moving along. The Highway 99 project is making progress. Obviously, a little bit of rain here and there, but they've kept moving pretty well. Paving subcontractor started to pave yesterday, but they didn't go quite the way he wanted. He blew a hydraulic hose, so didn't make it to as far as he wished, but did get some concrete down and hopefully keep making progress here this week on the concrete side of it. But it's coming along well. I say right now, they're working more on the south end still, or on the north end still. Right now, they're doing the kind of the rebuild of the Walker Road, kind of that White Camp access intersection. So that's coming well, and the other bridge is coming along well. I think they're gonna hopefully set some beams today on that. And otherwise, plenty of stuff going on, but those are the big parts of it.
Moving along, gentlemen, any correspondence? I have none. That brings us to discussion and vote. 5A is our 3rd public hearing of ordinance number 62 for the regulations of the siting and operation of the wind energy conversion system. We've gone through this. This is our 3rd reading, so we're going to open up for.
Move to open up the 3rd reading of the wind ordinance.
Second.
Let's see, where are we? Cheryl Mack.
Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Shane Campbell?
Yes. This hearing is open for public comments. Is there anybody in the audience today?
I guess I will, if nobody else wants to speak up. Ryan Drew, Des Moines County resident here. I spoke last week, this being the 3rd reading, thought I'd come down. Mr. Carberry wasn't able to join. He's actually over in Woodbury County where they're passing a even worse measure for projects. But, you know, I know Mr. Carey, Supervisor Carey wanted some information, some facts. You know, I was able to pull up here Center for Rural Affairs, Marshall County, which is similar to Des Moines County, 40,000 residents population. And what they were able to revenue collected off of wind turbines, 116 turbines on this farm in their county, represented $2.4 million in revenue, which broke out to be $1.34 million to school districts, and then an additional $668 in funding per student in the East Marshall Community School District. So, you know, it represents, these projects represent real dollars to not only the residents that are farmers that are looking to diversify their income, putting them on their properties, but also the taxpayers in our community. Again, you know, the Lion Energy power plant's going away, these are going away, so I mean, not only filling the void that that's gonna represent in the coming years, but also looking at additional funding to help relieve some of the stress off of the taxpayers. I mean, these are good projects, and I know we've talked about the issues with the ordinance that's before us, but again, I don't know what input was brought forth by, you know, wind turbine, the wind farm developers to say, you know, I know you'd like to say, here's the line, you know, this is a no-go or this is a go. Well, you know, that just isn't the case. You guys are out front putting this ordinance before, you know, they've got their i's dotted, t's crossed to put a farm together. And I guess, you know, even though Mr. Carberry isn't here today, I mean, he sits down, that's what he does, it sits at these hearings as they're coming to fruition. And here's the issue, so when he brings them forth, you know, I think they should hold a lot of weight, as being not only from his group, advocacy group, but also from the developers. So, you know, from the labor perspective, again, we're asking, you know, for a county and a resident of the county here, going from such an open, you know, unrestricted zoning policy that this county's had for so many years to going to one of the most restrictive ordinances on wind turbine, wind farms. Again, we're just asking some relief, whether it be on the percentage of the bonding on the decommissioning, the setbacks, you know, some of the other things I think they can live with, but those are certainly the two big ones, and would ask for your consideration and some more movement on those two items. So, thank you.
Brian, when I asked him for more information on that, it was on decommissioning. We understand where the tax dollars are going to be there. We understand that entirely. He said that the wind turbines could be upward 25 years. Average use of the wind turbine is around 20 years. In 2019, up in Minnesota, XL Energy estimated it's going to cost $532,000 for a wind turbine to just decommission it. Total cost of $71 million for 134 turbines. And that's where we're at. We cannot burden our taxpayers with that kind of money. For 131 turbines, $71 million is a lot of money.
But again, and I would, my reply to that is, we're not asking you to waive that. One, the county isn't gonna be on the hook for it. It's the contract between the owner and the developer of the wind farm, right? But in any case, we're not asking you to waive that 71 million. We're just saying, don't turn 71 million into 210 million, right? That's what we're talking about. Because then the project isn't feasible, right? I mean, we understand covering the 71 million, we understand covering 100 million, whatever. It's when we start adding $210 million worth of bonding, that's when it's like, okay, at some point, it's just not worth it to do project. Same way we do every county project, right? We don't make them bond 3 times the project. I mean, it's 100% of the cost of what, you know, to decommission, tear down, build the project, whatever that case is. That's what we're advocating for.
Typically, a construction bond is to cover that they get the job done. The job in this case included the decommissioning of all of those wind turbines. However many you got, like Jim said, in 2019, what, it was $530,000. In 2023 dollars, that's $630,000 per wind turbine. You throw inflation in there, and then you have a business model, or the way it works is right now the federal government's giving them $4 million of tax credits per wind turbine. If that changes, and you've heard me say here several times, the company that owns Mid-American Energy, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett said the only reason they build wind turbines is for the tax credits. There's no reason to build them. If that tax credit changes or goes away, who knows what will happen to that industry. Lots of big companies have gone. Pacific Gas and Electric went bankrupt. Texaco, Enron, for all sorts of reasons. There's nobody that says that's gonna be there. That market could explode. Because that's the reason they're building all those. If that goes away, everybody that builds them, takes them down, maintains them, their markets, everything's in flux. This is the only way we can protect the county. Over a period of 3 years, we can't see where that market's gonna be. We don't know what inflation's gonna be, because maybe there's a really small risk that Des Moines County would get stuck with that. But if you're talking about a risk of $100 million happening, a 1% risk of that happening, the $100 million loss, that we had to clean up, Des Moines County can't do that. You would take 10,000 acres off the tax rolls, you would destroy the owners of those, they wouldn't be worth anything. This is the only way we can protect Des Moines County, or the only way we can see to do it.
Any other comments, to Ryan?
Some of the things I see is that, you know, getting back into the site on the decommissioning, the 4 foot, you know, rather than taking it all out, I think we can negotiate the 4 foot, you know, with the 4 foot barrier. I kinda look at it, this is a starting point. If somebody's really, really interested, and it's kinda like when you go out to buy a new car or a used car, they've got a price on it. This is what we want, and then you negotiate. This could be negotiated with the future board of supervisors, so. But I look at this as a good starting point, which is protecting the taxpayers.
Yeah, I disagree on the 4 foot thing. The only thing I really saw, was maybe change it from 3 times to 2 times, and everything else I'm satisfied with. I feel like, if they're serious about it, they're gonna come and they won't have to pay more. It's just gonna be the surety bond, to make sure that they're covered, but when it's all said and done, it's just gonna be doing decommissioning like everybody else has to do, so I really have no problem there. That's where I'm at. Tom?
It's an ordinance. This is what we think. This is what I think. This is how you protect the county. Till some different evidence comes, this is the only way I see that happens.
Is there anybody else from the audience that has any comments or concerns? Ryan, we definitely appreciate you coming in. What, just look back here.
No, I'm
not-
Cheryl, did you receive anything?
I'm not aware of anything.
He did not receive any comments as well at, land use department.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Sorry. Moved in second to close public hearing. Cheryl Mack?
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yes.
I'd make a motion to approve the resolution approving the ordinance 62, regulating the siting and operation of the wind energy conversion systems.
Second.
Moved in second. Cheryl Mack?
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yes. That brings us to 5B, Resolution 2023-35, approving ordinance number 62, regulations for the siting and operation of wind energy conversion systems in Des Moines County. Whereas, we've got new transitions and they're not working right.
You just did that.
What'd you say?
Didn't you just approve the resolution?
Yeah, we approved that. We
Tom made the
Okay,
motion.
yeah, I never did, yeah, I never read that, yeah, all right, it's, anyways, B is resolution approving ordinance number 662, siting for wind energy conversion systems in Des Moines County, we just did that. All right, 5C is next with accounts payable. We have $404,000 $4,203.84 in checks. Then we have $529,005.67 in wire transfer payments, for the grand total of $933,209.51. Can I get a motion to approve?
We'll move.
Second.
Moved in second. Cheryl Mack.
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yep. Next we have reports, which are clerk's reports and fees collected for June 2023 in the amount of $4,941.91. Can I get a motion to approve?
That's what's report where you just.
Oh, yeah. And then we have E, minutes for regular meeting on July 11th, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Cheryl Mack.
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yes. Do we have other business? Any other business?
I have none.
Future agenda items?
I'd like,
Yeah, I was gonna, Angie, go ahead.
I'd like to, do a work session on the animal control board. Make sure we look over that, get some changes made. We got something coming up that I wanna address too, so.
Anytime's fine with me.
I'm good whenever we're, I'm not sure if we got anything next week.
Angie, just give Cheryl or Sarah a call and just set it up for.
Okay.
I'm not available until the second week of August, so.
Cool.
Committee reports? I have none.
I had a Rust board and everything's going real good with Rust board. We did, had a new election of officers. Deepwood from Keokuk County is going to chair it, Vice Chair Vice Moeller is Greg Moeller. The secretary is Chris Ball from Wise County. And the committees on the finance would be myself, Mark Meeks, Greg Moeller. Mark Meeks is Van Buren and Greg is Henry County. And policy is Ron Fedler from Lee County. And Deepwood, again from Keokuk County. And Lee from, he's from Jefferson County. Then on the personnel will be Chris Ball, myself, Greg Moeller, and on legal it's Chris Ball, Greg Moeller, and Deepwood. That's the new board for the Russ. That's all I had.
Okay. Thomas?
I attended the change of command center at the IAP last week, and I think they do that every couple of years, and it's a nice ceremony, and looks like we have a competent commander coming in. And last week we had the correspondence from the lady, Ms. Lori Rappenecker, that used to teach at Washington, that she'd sent a letter and said there were 2 trees that they've been planted on Earth Days that she'd like to save, and then there's somewhere on that site, there's a time capsule. Well, it's good news, bad news, we can save one of the trees. And the other trees, it's a big, beautiful pine tree, but it's located there on the corner. And inflation's been eating us up on this thing, so we've got that moved over closer to the corner, so we have to use as little concrete as possible rather than making long driveways. And so there's not much we can do with that, because then there's an old, part of an old foundation there, so there isn't a whole lot of moving you can do. And, but we can save the ginkgo tree, which finally I know which one the ginkgo tree is, because I didn't know what a ginkgo tree was. Anyway, so we met, and the hard part about that was the lady that donated the pine tree. She and her husband donated that. And I've known her since I was about 8.
Already then.
Anyway, so it was not much fun telling her that we couldn't save that. And they're gonna look at Google Earth to find out where the old flagpole, because they think they have an idea where the time capsule might be in relation to that flagpole. So Carl Nelson's gonna look at find that flagpole on Google Earth.
Did she know which year that time capsule was buried?
And she might have, I think it was in the early 2000s. Well, no, wait, maybe it was before that. I think it was the early 2000s. And so it's probably nearing maturity, because they put some stuff in there that was supposed to be
Later than that.
renewable, or how long it would last, and so they don't know whether it's in a metal box or not. We can try to find it with a metal detector, but we haven't given up on that. And Ken said I attended the Mental Health Agency of Southeast Iowa. It was our first official meeting, and we're selecting new members for the governance, and I am a member of the governance building, governance committee, and the advisory committees. And I attended the crisis intervention, the CIT training, and as Ken had mentioned, there's a chance mobile crisis could be available in Des Moines County on August 2nd. We will find out later this week if they're gonna open it on the 2nd, which is, everybody's excited about. It's so that they've got 25 or 26 people hired, and they work in 2-man teams or 2-person teams. I think they've been working closely and talking to law enforcement, so we're excited about that. And you can also remember that Optima they're just doing the credentialing now, but they're gonna have a contract so they can do a crisis assessment at the hospital, which is something that we've tried to get done for years. So looks like there's some good things happening in the provision of mental health services in Des Moines County, we're hopeful mobile crisis could be a game changer. So anyway, that's all I've got.
The hospital, I might just mention, the hospital has been able to do screenings through the BHAT team. But then if somebody goes to the crisis home, then we gotta have a whole assessment done by a therapist once they get to the crisis home. So we're kinda having to duplicate that process of the crisis assessments, because it wasn't.
And Medicaid only pays for one
Yeah.
crisis assessment, so if somebody goes.
So now by having
without-
Optima come into the hospital and do that with a therapist, then we no longer have to duplicate that service, and just makes it easier for people in crisis.
And that works for, what is it, Sheriff, an emergency assessment if you bring somebody in on a potential commitment?
Yeah, so law enforcement can bring somebody in on emergency committal if they're an immediate risk to themselves or others. We also get court orders for those emergency committals where we'll take them out, where a family member or acquaintances have gone to the courts and petitioned for them to be taken in. And some of those will also call for them to be assessed prior to being held. So they'll do those assessments when we take them to the hospital.
So, yeah, this expands the number of people that can do that assessment.
And they've been very good. I mean, we hear horror stories from across the state about waiting for hours, sitting in emergency rooms, and really the team out there does a pretty good job. We look at our own situation and we think, boy, we need to improve this, but when you hear other people's situations and the difficulties they have with accessing the resources that we have right out in West Burlington, we're in a pretty good place.
That's good. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, and our behavioral health unit in Burlington has been full. We've been sending people down to Fort Madison. So, a lot of people in crisis in Des Moines County. Lean on the people that love you, and the people that care. Make sure you don't hold it to yourself. Everybody needs help once in a while. We all need help once in a while. So anyways, be mindful of that. All right. Public input. We're going to have Jimmy set the clock. We'd love to hear from you. Good or bad, you can call us at 319-753-8203, extension 4. We'd like to hear from you at 319-753-8203, extension 4. Or you can email us at board@dmcounty.com, and we will be glad to return your emails as well. We're gonna wait 2 minutes. If there's somebody that would like to call, we will hear from you at this time. While we're waiting, does anybody have anything to say?
Ryan, you was sitting over there wanting to say something. Okay.
You already said it was just. Nobody has anything to say. Jared has nothing to say.
Ryan, I don't want to say, we're not listening to, we are listening to what, we understand where you're coming from. I really do.
Nobody has anything to say. I want to say this. I appreciate your commitment. This guy is the same commitment every time. I can't get mad at that. I can't get mad at that. Hey, man, it is what it is, but I appreciate your commitment.
County fair is starting next week, as Krista said. A lot of kids with a lot of projects. If you have time, come out and check those out. I think the animals are arriving Tuesday, static exhibits on Monday. Out at the fairgrounds out at SEC. It's always a neat experience to go out and see what's going on and check out the animals, check out the exhibits. See some of the shows.
My grandchildren live in Miami, and they're here this week. And so I was disappointed we missed the Des Moines County Fair, so we took them to the Henry County Fair. Of course, the little boy's 4 and the little girl's 7. They'd never seen a cow. Sheep or goat. Little girl thought they smelled bad. I said, well, I said, that's a farm smell. But they, it was, they had fun.
They don't stink as bad when you're about to eat it on a burger or on a hamburger. All right, that's our 2 minutes. So again, you're more than welcome to send us an email at any time. Again, that is at board@dmcounty.com. We'd like to hear from you. So with an aye, we're adjourned.
Aye.
Okay, we have a work session with the Pioneer Cemetery Commission for State 5. Good? Okay. We are back with a work session with the Pioneer Cemetery Commission regarding access to Old Danville. Can we have an introduction of your names, please?
My name is Herbert Price. I'm chairman this year of the Pioneer Cemetery Commission.
Steve Stoller, just commission member.
Okay.
Bill,
I'm Bill Walker, previous member of the commission.
one of the founding members.
What's Bill's last name?
Walker, one
Okay.
of the founding members of the commission.
All right. Good to
Thank
see
you.
Bill down here.
And
Let's
Oh.
jump right in.
They know me. All right, so we're here for a work session, and so this started last year. We had concerns initially about some mailboxes blocking our path of right of way, because Leroy's getting on in age. Lade, is it Lade? Lade. His son is saying that they're not gonna allow access to us anymore. Now, I'll kind of walk around and show this to everybody, but there's a driveway, that's his driveway, and he's let the cemetery board use the driveway and then come in to that 14-foot easement of right of way and go to the cemetery. Historically, Leroy's just, from agreement after this was done, he said, hey, let's not worry about these mailboxes, let's not worry about having this access.
That was an agreement with Leroy?
Yes,
a verbal agreement
right,
that the commission.
Okay, can I see that?
sure, yes. So this is not to, my line's not to scale here at all, but it kind of, so this would be like the driveway here goes in, and they come up and they drive, and there's a big tree in there, so they get past that tree and then go.
What's that, that's sort of a driveway as well, or what is that?
So
yellow line?
that yellow line is our easement.
Yeah.
So there is no path there, that's an ownership path. But it's grass, there's a tree in there, ultimately there's 3 mailboxes, everything else has been moved but the 3 mailboxes. But the concern is now, is his son's kind of started taking over things more and more. And he's put up a gate, so regardless of how we enter into our 14-foot access of right of way, there's a gate closing off that's shut, so you can't get to the cemetery, period. And then he's put in posts, like T-posts, like you would for a barbed wire fence.
Where'd he put those in at?
So initially, he put them across the 14-foot pathway. Now he's moved them, so they're kind of in between the drive and the tree where Leroy would have us driving using the driveway.
He's extended the fence.
He's putting in new fences, which is significant because if you turn the page here and you look at how the easement's written, this is not my favorite language in any stretch of my imagination, but it's the language we have, but it says, actually, I don't have the glasses, I still use my arms here, but grantor further transfers to the grantee's permanent 14-foot wide easement to cemetery as shown on plat attached here too, which is filed. So it just goes.
That's the yellow easement area,
Yes.
okay.
And if you read through, it goes from the fence line 14 foot over. And the problem we have with him putting in, now there's a very distinct fence line back right behind the cemetery. But as time goes on, if he keeps adding.
That make life any easier? Isn't that the old cemetery there?
So yeah, so this.
Thank you, Colin.
So this is Leroy's home right here.
Yeah?
So this fence line here, we have an easement of right of way from this fence line here, 14 feet going all the way across. That's that yellow line going all the way across to this cemetery area. Okay? So what we were talking about last year, the concern is, is there was 3 mailboxes, several utilities. So the city and Danville Telco have come in and they've moved all the utilities out of there. We talked to the school was on board with having the shop kids move it. Last year's shop teacher's no longer with us. She was good, you know, that, they were gonna do that, they were gonna do the bathroom outside, which didn't get done until after the school year, we contracted some. So it was somebody's first year, she's not doing it again. So since then I've talked to Dwayne, he's wanted to put in a bid to move these 3 and he's never done it. But we still have those there. To move those isn't really a big thing. But my concern is now I think we need to put in some sort of gravel or rock along this 14-foot path to establish a way through. Now there's a ditch, and I said culvert, but actually, I remember from last year when we measured it, they said we don't need the culvert, that ditch has been abandoned, but we'd have to fill, there's about a 3-foot ditch maybe, we would have to fill, or put in like when I say culvert, really a tile, right, 6-inch tile, anything, because there's not really water running through it. But just something, one, to make sure we have access all the way back, but 2, by putting rock down, then we're showing that we're claiming this is our easement, this is where it's at, and we don't get into a fight 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, saying, well, no, there's a fence line here, right? Fence line, what fence line? There's a fence line here, there's a fence line there, that's not even touching the cemetery. But if he's putting stakes through here, you get what I'm saying? As he's putting in new fence lines and moving fence lines, over time, if we do nothing, it becomes legally hard to say, yes, this is our easement, this is where it's at. So if we go through the process of literally just clearing, grubbing, and putting down rock and trying, I would prefer, not the cemetery board would, this tree is in that 14-foot.
Whose tree is it?
It's Leroy's tree. It's just on the edge, so it's not entirely, but ultimately, I think if we could leave that there, that would be better. I mean, we're talking 100-year tree, why tear it down if we don't have to? But just to rock within that 14-foot area, so we can say, hey, look, this is our easement, this is how we get in. And that's why I asked Brian here, I know you've had hesitation to do something like this, but would you be willing to do, I mean, it's not a.
Was Knight supposed to be here? Was he invited?
No.
Okay.
I mean, Leroy's good when he's good. I mean, he's in his 90s.
No,
So he's sharp when he's.
This is,
Oh,
how
he knows what's
long
going on,
have we
but-
been using that verbal agreement access?
Ever since we got the quitclaim deed.
How long ago was that?
What's the date on the deed?
Sorry. 2012? Yeah, 2012, November 2012.
I remember distinctly the verbal conversation between himself and Leroy and myself about that we didn't have a way to use the easement as it is. It would be okay if we used his driveway and then drive across his lawn. And he said that would be fine, but of course, that's just a verbal agreement.
Right, that's not legally binding at all, so.
On real estate, no, but that's what's been done.
What do you mean it's legally binding?
A legal agreement says, hey, you can come here
Well,
and
you have
use it.
prescriptive easement rights that anything over 10 years you can make an argument for
Yeah.
in the state of Iowa.
In other words, if you've been doing something or using it for so many
Yeah,
years.
but it has to
It's
be- it has to
gray
be
and
adverse
it's ugly and it's not a
ultimately.
guarantee.
But it has to be adverse. It's not adverse, it's by agreement, you just told us by agreement.
What does verse mean?
Against his wishes.
against his wishes.
Oh, okay.
And then open and notorious, so it's like squatter's rights, almost.
Yeah.
Not almost, that's what it is.
Yes.
Like somebody moves into a house and doesn't have permission to be there, and they live there, and they're there for 10 years, and then they can file to say, hey, look, I own this by conscription.
So the fact that Leroy and I agreed to it verbally doesn't help our case. It makes it worse, it makes it can't be challenged.
Correct, that makes it, he's giving you permission, saying, hey, look, you know, to be friendly, and we know that there's these now just the post boxes, but we know that there's these utilities and post boxes at the time, in the way, you can use this to kind of bypass and get to it, and that'll work fine.
Mhm.
But Lay's told you guys he's not gonna honor that agreement, correct?
Not directly, has he?
He doesn't speak to us. Leroy, the day we was out there, Leroy said that, when I'm gone, Lay takes this over, you're gonna have problems.
Yes.
He said because he's not gonna want you back there, and he's gonna do everything he can to keep you from going back there.
Yes.
What was the, before the agreement was made, how were they accessing that? Because Leroy's lived there for a long time.
Through Leroy's driveway.
No, well, they weren't, that was the problem, it was,
They
so.
stacked up on the tombstones over near his barn or something, hadn't he just taken them down and started farming it?
Used a couple of
To
them
the fence line, so I think what Leroy says is that all the tombstones had blown from a tornado and stacked themselves on the fence line here.
I've seen tornadoes do that.
He also had,
So, but regardless, and they probably were, I mean, honestly, that area was just hit with wind damage earlier this spring. I have no idea why, but that area coming down through gets hit with tornadoes, it does. I don't, you know, and all the wind events kind of funnel through there. So in the last 5-10 years, they've been hit probably every other year with something.
could I make a couple points? Also, Leroy had the Jaeger monument, the family monument, the huge thing, moved to Jaeger Cemetery. It was sitting there, and of course, the tornado didn't move it, it's too big. But he had that moved to Jaeger Cemetery. All it says on his family name of Jaeger. Another 2 points, we have a mower that goes back, a guy that mows this for us, that goes back in there, that has a trailer, I assume, with his John Deere tractors on it. He's gonna need all of the 14 feet with his truck, with his.
To get in there.
To get in there. My question is, what do we do in the future if the tree is growing in our easement? How many feet does that take out of the easement? And will we still have enough easement for a large-sized vehicle to get on the property through that easement being blocked by that tree?
Does he use a full-size tractor on that?
Well, I'm speaking with just speculation. We know he uses John Deere riding lawnmowers. We assume that he brings them there with his pickup, which I've seen, and it's on a trailer with but we're making some assumptions.
12 or 14 foot sounds like an awful wide trailer to me.
Well,
Well, but with the rear view mirrors on the pickup, do they, if you measure the rear?
They typically stick out as far as the trailer does,
Yes.
so you can see alongside of
But
them.
he doesn't have to, unlike, for instance, I drove by the one while the gentleman was mowing, there's a Pioneer Cemetery on the south side of Mediapolis Road that's way back in, you gotta wind in along a hayfield. And he was all the way back in there with the truck and trailer, which you would need to, I mean, that's probably a quarter mile by the time you wind back in there. In this situation, he could easily park out on Danville Road, unload a mower, run in. Your access for a regular sized vehicle, I mean, because it's so close to the road, your access for a regular sized vehicle would probably pertain more to maintenance. I'm not saying you don't need access for a full size vehicle, but I don't know what's back in there, but for him to get in there with a trailer, unload everything and turn around and come back out, I wouldn't be surprised to see him park somewhere more convenient and just drive the mower in and drive out to mow. But you need to get in there for maintenance with a pickup truck at some point anyway. Would that be a correct statement?
I think that's a very good point, that his option is to park the trailers someplace else and ride the John Deere riding lawnmower back there using our easement. So that would probably be the rational way around the tree taking some of the 14 feet easement out of our usage.
Well, that doesn't get you by to get in there with maintenance type, like a pickup truck or something, if you guys are gonna work back there. But it does narrow up the need for him if you're gonna go technically with the 14 foot. I mean, I looked at this, it does appear that the tree, with the way the easement's written, assuming the old fence line is what they were, I think that's a pretty safe assumption that they were theorizing to come off of with that 14 foot. The tree certainly eats up every bit, I would guess, without going back there, of 5 foot of that easement. When you figure the root base and the trunk and everything else, it's not growing in the fence line, it's growing on the north side of the fence line. So to technically, it
Cuts
is
down on
in your,
easement from less than 4 feet.
it does narrow your easement up as far as the full width. I think the real problem would be if he were to put up a fence where he theorizes the 14 foot to be, it'll pinch that down to where it will be fairly tight, even for if this guy's mowing with a 72-inch deck, with a spout on the end to keep your grass from blowing all over or whatever. I mean, it could be tight. I haven't been back there, but it will be tight. You won't get a vehicle by there. But I do believe you could be maintained, but.
Thank you. I think you pretty well stated my concern. The tree is growing in the easement, and that bottlenecks the easement, and we may not be able in the future to get back there to do what we have to do if we follow the letter of the deed on the easement, because the tree, we can't drive through the tree, we gotta drive around it. And he could put a fence right there where the easement is and cut that down to a distance that we couldn't use. I think you've stated it quite well.
This is not my place and not my times, but I'm gonna say what I would normally say to anybody that calls me about this kind of a thing, I guess. Then won't be able to say I'm consistent. I know that clearly there's a history of Leroy, and I've known Leroy for a long time, not as long as all of you, but, and he can be a good old boy or he can be a little feisty. And I'm sure that changes as you get older too. I haven't talked to Leroy for a while. Obviously his kid is a little, apparently, from what I can gather, a little less thrilled with the whole thing, but I feel like, I mean, unless Trent thinks it's a waste, I feel like a meeting of the same group with them here to see if there's some middle ground would be better than going in and blazing a path and rocking a path. I think the code, even though there is this 14-foot wide easement, I believe the code gives some leeway and some language to guarantee access to pioneer cemeteries.
Well, and that's how we were able to get this easement in, is there was a lawsuit, from the county, between the county and Leroy.
Correspondence, there's no suit ever filed.
Oh, okay, so it stopped short of filing, I guess. But it was the fact that they need to provide an access of right of way.
And that hasn't changed, the tree's there, but that hasn't changed. I feel like if push came to shove in this entire thing, probably with Trent full in on it, and let's face it, I don't imagine Lade's looking to wrap up a whole bunch of money in attorneys, that there still has to be access provided to a pioneer cemetery, and clearly a large tree blocking part of a theoretical 14-foot easement is not access. So I just wonder if we could get them into the same room. Maybe we hit an absolute stone wall. I guarantee you, we will close off any form of mediation if we go in and blaze a path through a mowed yard, which probably will be a lawsuit because they're not gonna like anything we do across the place that they mow. And remember, we do just have easement, we don't own it. It doesn't necessarily give us the right to destroy their property. I mean, and to some extent, we would be doing that. And I, for the record, as far as I need to get this out too, the Code of Iowa expressly prohibits me from spending money outside of county right of way. This is entirely in the city limits. So, having said that, yes, my crew could do this. We could do this. But I will have to submit an invoice to the Board of Supervisors for the time and materials to do it. That is the only legal way I can do this. We've had this discussion with other Pioneer Cemetery stuff, and we've had this discussion in other places. 25 years ago, we built a pond on the county farm in Monroe County for a wetland mitigation thing, and they had to pay us with our crew to do it, even though it was county property, because it was off of county right of way. So it's doable to answer that thought. Trent brought it up, so I wanted to address it, but it's not free. It can't be, because the code says our money has to be used on county right of way. And not only is this off of any kind of public right of way, it's also in city limits.
What's Lade's, I mean, is he doing this just because he doesn't like Pioneer cemeteries or anything? Is this anything he thinks he can farm for a couple, 3 years if nobody's been there?
He doesn't like anybody.
Yeah, the history is, I don't know if Shane knows this. We took that cemetery back from him. That's the rub, is when we came in and we took that area back from them. Because that was a farm field, pasture, whatever they wanted. And they had to give it up. So that's Leroy swallowed it.
How long ago was that?
Well, the deed was done in 12, so this started probably in 05, 07, 08, that we really started working on saying that's a cemetery and we want it back. And so that's been the problem.
Okay.
Leroy swallowed it mostly, Lade did not. He's never accepted that. And
Okay.
anybody reasonable, that tree provides a lot of shade, it's a beautiful tree, I'd hate to cut it down. Anybody reasonable would say, if you guys need to swerve out over there 3 feet to go around that tree, because I don't want to cut that tree down. That's the attitude they would have, but Lade's not reasonable. Leroy obviously has been reasonable because he's let us drive across his yard and through his drive. Lade is gonna be the problem when Leroy dies, and as Jim says, Leroy's told us this multiple times, that when I'm gone, you're gonna have a problem getting back there because of Lade.
Leroy pointed out some stones that were missing out of the cemetery, directed me how to and when to go get them and bring them back to the cemetery, which is what I did. Leroy, I didn't know they existed until Leroy pointed them out to me. So I think Leroy can be worked with. He verbally agreed with me on how to get to the cemetery through his driveway. He pointed out those stones, which I went and got and delivered to the cemetery. And I wouldn't have known about him if he hadn't said something. But his son.
This is Leroy's property, correct? That he's leaving to his son?
Well, we assumed that.
Well, I think it's going to his son because the farm would have been his, like, first wife's family farm, is that right? Or second wife? He's been a widower several times.
Right.
And so this farm was one of his wife's family farms. So even if he wanted to do something else with it, I'm not sure he has the ability to direct the ownership. I think it goes to Lade.
I think, personally, I like Brian's idea. I doubt very much if you will get Lade in here. But I'd like to see it set out while Leroy's still alive. Here's the law. Here's what you can do and here's what we can do, and this is what we have to live in. So that somewhere down the road, nobody can say, well, I didn't know that, or I'd like to see it documented and set out. Here's what everybody's expectations of everybody, and this is what the law says.
Or even if you can get Leroy without Lade.
If there's hard feelings already, I mean.
Oh, if you start putting that road in?
I will, I mean, if it would
Yeah.
work to try to, I'll call and personally meet with him without anybody there. Just to.
If you wanna start with that, I wouldn't have a problem.
Well,
there.
I only do that if the board wants. This is not really my topic, but if there's hard feelings towards Pioneer Cemetery, instead of dragging, really, if we can't make it anywhere, the board's gotta become the bad guy here. Because whether we go in and put a rock driveway in, or whether we go and try to use the code to say, we gotta get around this tree to comply with access to the cemetery, it's still probably, either one is probably gonna be a threat more than it is a middle ground. So that's probably the board's position here when you get to that. So if you guys think it would be beneficial, I don't know Lade, I wouldn't know Lade if he walked in right now, but I can call Lade, if I can get a contact with them and say, hey, I don't know anything about this, but I wondered if you'd have time to stand out on site and talk some stuff through, you know, as a kind of a middle party, and then if Leroy's available, I'd meet with Leroy too. And try to do something as more of a mediation type dynamic before push comes to shove, but that's up to the board and to Trent and what you guys wanna go with this.
I'm thinking Lee might want somebody from the board there, but.
And that's fine too.
And I think, go ahead.
What I'd like to see, I'd like to get them mailboxes moved. We've been lingering on that for too long. And I think if we get them mailboxes in there, I think it's gonna put the fire out a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Cause he knows we got that direct access, then we can deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to move, I mean, from the minimalist perspective, if we were to move those mailboxes and then bring, whether it's rock or fill dirt, into that, when I say 3-foot ditch, it's a little ditch, it would you'd have like almost a.
Frayne said he had dirt out there to fill that in, he said it does not need any tile in it or anything, he said it's got enough fall in it.
High enough, yeah.
He said, so, we don't have to worry about culvert or anything, and Frayne told me himself, he said, I will fill that in when you guys get ready to move them mailboxes.
Okay. That would only leave the problem of the tree that cuts down our flow into the easement.
Well,
And that's what Brian, whoever could talk to him about, said, what can we do here?
Yeah. The tree was evidently planted by Lade, his son, and his wife at the time. It's less than 100 years old, but.
Well, like I said, it provides shade and everything, and they
Oh,
planted
it'd be a
it.
tragedy.
I would, if it was my tree, I'd say, go around it, you know, I
Oh,
certainly don't want
absolutely.
anything to happen to the tree.
It's a nice big tree.
Yeah, it would be a shame to do anything with that tree. It needs to stay where it is, but,
Just need a little extra space on
but it needed to be about so many feet to the south, and it wasn't, and,
Well, at that time, it wasn't an issue.
Well, he's got enough
But it
around
wasn't,
there,
I'm
he
sure,
should,
yeah,
redo that access.
let us go around the tree.
Yeah.
Move it how many ever feet to the north.
Yeah.
And if anything happens, it would be a lot more palatable to Wade if he was in on the discussion and made it happen, like with Brian or something, rather than somebody show up and said, this is what's happening. There isn't anybody here that would like that.
No, I agree. I do think though, I don't know if he's gonna be reasonable. I mean, some of these things, when we get into, and you guys have seen it, you've seen it, when you get into these kind of property line questions, sometimes it's emotional. I've been at closings of people who'd had 100-year farms and somebody else has bought it, and they're talking about how they finally got back the farm that their great-great-grandfather had stole from them, like during the Depression, or, you know, stuff like that, where they lost the farm and somebody came and bought it on auction, and they stole the farm, they finally got, and we're talking like 2 or 3 generations later, they finally got it back. And so these things, they're emotional at like a whole different level sometimes. And things get wrapped into it, like I didn't know that Blade and his mom planted the tree. That's probably a
That's
deal.
what Leroy told me.
Yeah, I mean, that's important, right?
He may not be reasonable, he may not be reasonable at all, but if he's not reasonable at all in that setting, he wasn't gonna be reasonable to start with, you still checked off a box.
Yeah.
No matter how uncomfortable it is or how frustrating he gets,
I'm in on that.
you still can say to anybody that he chirps at that, hey, we met him on site, we tried to talk to him. and again, I've been there, Trent's right, there's times where it's a no-win, and you still look them in the eye, you still put yourself through that frustrating or uncomfortable dynamic, and you still do it. I've done plenty of them, and you walk away from, and you try not to do another one again, and then you do another one 3 weeks later, so.
I'm open with you having a meeting with him first, and if he's not satisfied and wants to meet with the board, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
I'm just offering if it would help your situation, I don't,
think
like I
it's
said,
a-
I don't know later.
You're enough of a directly uninvolved person that I think you could talk to him.
If anybody can.
If anybody can, where I don't think any of these gentlemen could show up and it would go well.
I can talk to Leroy, and I think we need to get this settled while Leroy's still in control of real estate,
Yeah.
before he passes it on.
Let me ask a few questions, just so I don't, if I'm gonna do this, so I don't go beyond. I'm assuming you're only talking about rocking it and everything, like Trent mentioned earlier, to kind of establish the visual, physical access. If they're willing to acknowledge your need to get in and out, and prefer not to have their ground rocked across and stuff, do you guys care that you rock it, or can you use it not being rocked? Even if he doesn't wanna let you use the driveway, but he'll acknowledge letting you in and out and around the tree, let's say for now. You're not hell bent on rocking this at this point, or is that an angle? I don't wanna say something that is not what you guys would prefer.
It doesn't need rocked.
Okay, that's what I was
It's
getting
my
at.
opinion.
I mean, he's not gonna be
The
mowing
ditches
in there when
deep.
it's muddy.
Yeah, we're talking about all the way back though.
Oh, no, not the.
It's never been rocked. And
Yeah,
we've been fine
understood.
No
without
problem.
it rocked.
We just but the ditch itself needs to be filled.
Yeah.
If an
If he
ordinary
doesn't
vehicle
want
is
us,
going across
if
it.
he doesn't want us
Front-wheel
to
drive,
use
He's
it,
talking about getting back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
No
problem.
That's why I'm asking the question, cause
Yeah.
if you really were gonna do that, I don't wanna tell him something that's counter to what you're
No,
planning.
we're not interested in rocking it. To drive on top of grass and ground is.
It doesn't need rocked for our part. We understand Trent's logic.
Oh, I do too.
But
I
for
totally understand
for
it.
the Pioneer Cemetery Commission's part, it
Well,
doesn't need
I
rocked.
guess where I'm going with this is, I don't know what Lade's like and everything else, but I'm the kinda guy that's gonna kinda lay everything out, and if it goes good, that's fine, I won't go certain places. If it doesn't go well, I'm probably gonna give them a picture of where things are gonna go. I mean, because from what I gather, we're gonna fight for this if it requires a fight.
Do you start out talking to them later?
I'm gonna ask Lade to have he and Leroy available.
Yeah,
I would
Leroy,
prefer them,
Yeah.
I
It would be
prefer them
good for
both there.
Leroy.
Yeah.
You want Leroy there. Leroy's far more reasonable than Wade.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably contact Lade first and let him be in the driver's seat, and then say, I'd really like to, but I wanna meet with you and Leroy. What works for you guys? I don't know what Lade does work-wise, I don't know what his schedule's like, so I'll just have to go from there, but Lade would probably be my first contact.
Does he live in Danville?
He lives,
Yeah.
I just looked him
Yeah,
up, he lives right beside
He lives
Leroy.
right in that house right there. Yeah, Steve's got it right there.
Okay.
We had a work session out there, I don't know when, one time.
2 years ago.
Well, no, when we were working out
Oh,
there.
okay.
And we were walking back there, we parked up here and we were walking back there, and he got on his porch and he just screamed at us walking back there. I don't know what he was saying, but I mean, he was mad, and he, as we walked back, he was just screaming at the top of his lungs at us. He's not reasonable. And that's why we initiated all this, because Leroy warned us, and Leroy's getting old.
Yeah.
We want this established before Leroy passes,
Yes,
so.
Save everybody a lot of heartache.
yeah, get it established.
Well, again, the meeting may not change anything, it may still be a dogfight, but it's worth it.
It's a good place,
It
it's
may
a good
just be a
place to
phone
start.
call and he won't meet.
They're sitting on the
It's
county,
easement.
they're sitting on the town's right of way,
Uh-huh.
so the rock we're talking about then would only be, there you go, the rock you're talking about would just be between the street and the sidewalk.
Yeah, it may not technically be their property, it may be part of the right of way for the.
Well, I was gonna say, the mailboxes, according to that are sitting on the city property.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you have to, I don't know how the city owns their property, I don't know if they own it by easement or by title. But all that, you wanna remember that if it is an easement and it's still an underlying title, it is still underlying to that landowner. So, we can do, again, Pioneer Cemetery has an easement on paper in that area. So really, we can do whatever we want. It's the tree that really is push and shove
Yeah.
dynamic, if this becomes an argument. You already got 14 foot back to a certain point. And then to me, once you get to that point, it may be ugly, it may be Trent having to fight in court to make the argument that the code gives us right to have access to this and this tree's blocking this, so we need to go around the tree. I mean, that may be where it goes, but I'll just reach out, start with Lade, and go from there.
I
Let's
believe
do
your
that. Let's-
understanding of the problem is very good, thank you.
Yeah, and let's, after you get information, let's set up a work session again, or the next step, which would be if he's wanting to meet with supervisors as well, which I think we're all open for that.
I'll reach out to him this week yet. Next week, between meetings and a short family vacation, I won't be able to meet with him next week at all. So if I don't accomplish something this week as far as getting in touch or meeting with them, it will be a week gap in there before I have that opportunity. But I'll let you know where the contact comes. I'll communicate with Trent and the board, and you guys can pass it on from there.
If there's another work session scheduled, can the cemetery commission be notified?
Well, you would want to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
That'd be the only
I'd still
reason
like
to
to
have
see
it.
them mailboxes moved.
Mm-hmm. They need to be moved.
They need to be moved because we talked about that last time, 2 years ago. And here they're
Yeah.
still not there. We have, you've had,
It's been-
Dwayne Worthy was gonna move them, and the school's gonna move them, and
Well,
nobody's moved them.
Yeah, so it's been 1 year, so the school and then Dwayne, maybe it has been, no, it's been the one.
Who's
But-
supposed to move in, the city?
But,
City won't move them.
the city won't, because they can't, because it's.
Well, we got permission from the post office to move them, right? Didn't we?
We've sent letters out to all the affected homeowners
Yeah.
and to the post office, so they're all on
That's all
notice.
covered, okay.
Now, but who do you think we could get to do that? I mean,
I don't know.
who, cause like when Dwayne wanted to do it, I'm like, perfect, great, but then he just gets so stinking busy. When we say, we're talking about Dwayne Worthy.
Worthy, yeah.
Yeah.
How many are there? 3 mailboxes?
Yeah.
3 mailboxes.
3
Cover it,
mailboxes.
man.
So you
On two
can
posts.
do it with a single post with a T, or you can do it with
Well, right now
individual
there's two
posts, or
posts.
you can do it, there's a bazillion ways you can do that, but there's.
Well, again,
3
I can
mailboxes.
move the
Two
mailboxes
posts, two
for
of them
you,
on
but
one
I have
post.
to bill for the materials.
I think it's 3 mailboxes on 2 posts.
Is that what it is? 3
I
on
think,
two?
am I wrong?
If you guys could
How
do it,
much is it
bill
gonna
for
cost to-
materials, that would
It's
be
not gonna be a
awesome.
lot, I just wanna be upfront with you, I don't have it, I mean, I'm probably, if there's 3 mailboxes, I'm probably gonna, first we gotta do locates, cause we gotta see what's there for utilities. I'll probably, talk to my superintendent and my sign guy, and I'd have to look at the
You know, like the
mailboxes,
other
whether we
house
can mount the current mailboxes on top of a new post. If we're doing it, it will not be wood posts, we'll just put in some steel square posts. That's what we use for all signs, we don't even use wood posts for anything anymore, so,
Go on the other.
but I can't,
No, they
There you
are.
go.
3
3
individual posts.
mailboxes on 3 individual posts.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now,
Will we
that's a
pay
good
for that?
shot, looking at that right
if
away
we
going
have to.
back there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Should we plan on in our budgeting paying for this work?
If that's what,
To the roads department, because we traditionally have money left over in maintenance.
I
Should
think
the
we-
commission pay it?
we just gave them $5,000 back, I mean, we can pay for this in my
And
book.
keep in mind, I'm not saying that I need some guarantee of payment before I can do something, I'm just,
not that big a deal.
at some point in the future, I've got to invoice for that to make it clean.
And we wanna
I
have the
to.
money for you, if we're expected to pay it, we wanna
It
have the
won't
money.
it won't be a lot of money, it's not
Yeah.
gonna be, we probably won't even put bases in because of it being, I mean, I need to talk to my guys. From there, if you guys want that done, I also probably need somebody to tell me where to put them. I don't want to move them to a spot that you guys, I don't wanna be the one, since I have been in the middle of this, deciding where you're gonna put it, so.
Just move them to the south.
So the letters I sent out,
It'd be, what, the mailboxes?
You want them in front of Leroy's house, you think that's gonna make it warm and tingly?
so,
No, I just wanna say, move them north, not
when,
south.
when I sent the letters out, I kinda asked for feedback from the homeowners. Leroy wanted his moved to the south. Talked to him.
Oh, one of them's Leroy's?
Yes, so he's like, just move it to the south.
Yep.
The person that owns this one would probably want it moved to the south.
That's his son?
No, that's across the street next to Scott.
Oh, okay.
This right here is Scott Rogers from his fire department, Sue's son. He's like, I don't care. There's a set of mailboxes, 2 mailboxes to the south. If you wanted to move that one and set that by those mailboxes, that wouldn't be any heartburn for him. It might be even closer to him just walking straight outside. But those other 2 for sure, they would want to move to the south.
On the other side of the driveway?
Yes.
Yeah.
right
On the
there.
other side of the driveway?
Yes.
Okay.
We need somebody to put an X on the spot for Brian's guy.
How about we start, let's get the mailboxes have been there for a while now anyway.
Yep.
How about I reach out to Lake first?
Which-
and
Whenever
let's
he
just-
sees something starting,
How about we just do that,
That's
and
gonna raise the
then I'll
temperature.
say, hey,
Okay.
I'll say something to Trent or whatever, and you guys paint a couple pink dots, and we'll move mailboxes. We can move mailboxes whenever. I don't think 3 or 4 weeks of the mailboxes shifting one way or the other, now that I've committed to us doing it.
Yeah.
We'll get it done. How about we focus on just that communication? If that's all dead in the water, by God, we'll move mailboxes and at least, and they can fill the ditch and that shot over the bow, cause that's kind of how I would look at it.
Yep.
That shot over the bow will then be delivered if Lade's not willing to be reasonable or even talk to me. It may be simple, I'm not gonna meet with you. So that's all doable, but let me make that call.
That sounds
And
good.
with the openness that it might be 2 to 4 weeks before the mailboxes get moved, depending on where this goes.
Yeah.
That good with everybody?
That sounds good.
You know,
So, cause that's not a big task by any
Leroy's
means.
got 2 driveways back there. It's too bad that he didn't give us access on this north driveway. And when you get back there, just kind of curve around. It took less of his ground up. and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And give us an easement going back that way, and then we wouldn't have to worry
Yeah.
about what Lake's worried about.
That's an excellent shot, thank you. But yeah, that's what we did, we drove back that drive,
Yeah.
and then right between that tree and the garage, we scooted over and went back the rest of the way,
Yeah.
so. And it's just unfortunate, because with 99% of the people, that's still the reasonable way to go.
I bet you there's
But-
less than 1 vehicle a month during the summer
Yeah.
that goes back there. I mean, this is,
Yeah,
There used to be when I moved there in '84, there was a sign there that said Pioneer Cemetery. And it was out on the street in that area. I don't know where that's at, but there used to be a sign there that said Pioneer Cemetery.
well, now we've got a big cemetery big sign in the cemetery. And that lists all the family names of the people that are buried there. And ones Leroy directed me to are a new family, so there's another one to add to the sign. But it's a big sign that pretty much explains where all these people came from. Is it the Congregational Church that had that? Congregational?
boy.
Wouldn't surprise
So
me.
they used to have
Yeah.
the Congregational Church used to have a cemetery tour.
Have a what?
A cemetery tour, so they would go out to the cemetery
They moved that.
and tell the history. It was around
Another cemetery.
October, it was around Halloween. But people would pay to go, and it was a fundraiser for them. But they would have somebody that knew the history of each of the cemeteries. And I don't know all the details of it, but they'd have a cemetery tour. So they would go out on like a hayrack ride, and they would get there, and
I think
somebody
they'd
would
have
be there. and they
individuals
would-
standing there that represented in costume the people that were buried there. Is that not true?
Maybe they did, I've just been, I've heard stories of this, and they've talked and when they're talking about bringing things back, and fundraisers and stuff. So I know the Congregational Church did do the cemetery tour.
The Congregational Church has made donations to our cemetery commission to be used for maintenance, and we've tended to use that to buy equipment like chainsaws on a pole that we could use.
But not the church connected with this.
There's a big church behind the Congregational Church, the one that's out off of Beaverdale Road. That has a big cemetery behind it, much bigger than this one. That's, I think in your guys' purview, maybe not. Maybe it's self-maintained. There's like a one-room schoolhouse and a cemetery.
That
I don't
is-
think that's Pioneer.
No, that's not a pioneer, it's supported by the local church there.
Okay, so they maintain that themselves.
Okay. So Brian, you're gonna talk to them.
Yes, I will.
We appreciate that.
Let us know when the next meeting is.
Oh, you'll definitely be informed.
We'll definitely let you guys know. And I agree 100% what Steve said. He's not reasonable at all.
We don't want to take down that tree.
This guy, I got a guy, he walks, and you can wave at him, just put his head down, he won't wave. I asked Bob one day, I said, you ever talk to him? He said, how could you? He said, he won't talk to anybody. So good luck, Brian.
I may not go anywhere, but we tried.
Yeah, I always
like
liked
the
it.
idea of trying.
Right on, right on.
Very good.
And if it works, great, I mean, and it might be, if he hears, hey, we wanna move these mailboxes, put in the dirt here, and then we're good, that might set him at ease.
Well, I mean, Trent, you're probably, from everything everybody's saying, you're probably closer to it than anything else. He's probably beyond the point of any level of reason.
Yeah, there's a,
Maybe he's a little bit better with Leroy there, maybe he's not. You're right, there's all types, and if they aren't gonna let it go, they won't let it go.
Yeah.
But at least I understand the position, because if I can get him to at least talk to me, even if he's not willing to be reasonable, I can lay out the fact that, hey, we're gonna move these posts, we're gonna fill the ditch, and they have that access, and they're gonna start using that to get off of the driveway and kind of prep them for the fact that there's gonna be some stuff happening.
wise decision, wise.
And the other thing that concerns me some with the gate, can you put it back up? So.
Nice work, Colin.
When seeing that gate's closed, I don't know if it's closed, and we have no way of knowing if it's closed solely to try to block us access, so you can see, like I can see when I walk all the way up here, I couldn't see it from, it's hard to see, but there's a gate here that's closed. So going from here to there, and then inside of that is where the cemetery is, beyond that. So historically, they have cows in there from time to time, livestock in there. So let them know that we're concerned if the gate's closed, that we need to know. I suppose you can open and close behind it if.
Well, anybody who grew up in the country, if you go through a
Okay,
gate that's
you
closed,
close-
you
you
close
close
it
behind
behind
you,
you,
that's
when
the
you
rule.
come back
The
through,
gate's
that's-
never-
Last time there was a horse in there, a pretty feisty horse too.
Yeah, that's never been a problem.
That's not been
The
a problem.
problem is
Well, it
if
has
we open
because-
the gate and don't close the gate.
If there's the
That's the problem,
Then
it's like you say.
that's your fault then,
You
yeah.
open
Yes,
the gate,
it's
you
all,
go
all
through.
on us for that, it's all on us.
As long as we open and close the gate behind us, that's not been a problem.
Okay.
No issue there.
All right.
Okay, you gentlemen satisfied?
Well.
No, you're
we
not.
assessed
No,
for
you're
now.
not. For now.
Who are you defining as gentlemen first?
Yeah, let's start with the beginning, gentlemen. Well, I know Billy is.
I must say he was talking to Bill.
He was one of my upperclassmates in school. What year did you graduate, Billy?
57.
57, yeah.
You were in 8th grade when I was a senior.
Yeah.